Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having an amazing Friday. For those that don't know me, my name is Rich Ganim. I hail from the beautiful city of Cleveland, Ohio, where I have a sales team. I'm also licensed in the beautiful state of Florida, where we are building out our sales team with the goal of covering the entire state. I am thrilled to be here with you today. What we are going to need for our call. If you're driving, I need you to pay attention to the road and I need you to listen. If you're not driving, you will need something to write with and something to write on for our call today, something to write with and something to write on. And I'm excited about today's call because I want to talk to you about your pathway to payday. And what I want to start with is I would like to start with asking you this question. First and foremost, when was your last closing? I don't need you to give me the answer. I want you to write it down. When was your last closing? If you remember the date, write that down. So if your last closing was yesterday, it would be April 25th. And then under the date of your last closing, I want you to write down how much the property sold for. So you're going to write the date of your last closing, and you're going to then under that write the how much the property sold for. Under how much the property sold for, I want you to write down your gross commission. So for all intents and purposes, if it was a $300,000 sale and you got paid 3% of the purchase price, your gross commission was $9,000. Okay. Under your gross commission, if you're not capped currently, or if you're at a company that is not capped, that is not a capping model, and you paid a split to the brokerage, I want you to do the math on how much you paid the brokerage, subtract that from the gross total, and write down how much money you kept. So if in the example of that $300,000 sale, you earned $9,000 if you got paid 3%. If you're at our company, if you are partnered with us and you are uncapped and you paid 80%, you paid 20% to the brokerage, you're going to then multiply that and you're going to have kept $7,200. Okay. The next thing I want you to do is to draw a line under that. And I want you to write down where that piece of business came from. And I'm going to give you 6 options to choose from. Okay. That piece of business came from one of 6 options. So you may have to think a little extra on maybe where did this come from, and that's okay. Your option 1 is going to be drip campaigns and mailers. Option 2 is going to be door knocking or a database touch. Option 3 is going to be a referral coming from a past client or a sphere of influence, a paid internet lead, or a sign call. I'll say option 3 again for you. It will be a referral coming from a past client or somebody in your sphere of influence, an internet lead, or an inbound sign call. The 4th option will be open houses. Your 5th option is going to be a direct sale from your past clients or your sphere of influence. And your 6th option is going to be expired listings or for sale by owners. Okay, so I'm going to run through those again. So what we did is we started with the dates of our last sale. We then went to how much the property sold for. From there, we went to our gross commission before broker split. From there, we calculated the broker split if we work for a company that is an uncapped model or we are uncapped. Okay, we deducted that. That then gave us how much money we made. I then asked you to draw a line under that and identify one of 6 options that sale came from. Those options were drip campaigns or mailers. It was door knocking and database touch. It was a referral from your past clients or circle of influence. Paid internet leads or inbound sign calls. That was number 3. Number 4 was open houses. Number 5 was a direct sale from your sphere of influence or your past clients. And number 6 was expired listings or for sale by owners. Okay. So once you have how much money I made from my last sale and where did that sale come from? Okay, we should have those 2 things identified at this point. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, from the moment I generated the lead to the closing table, how long was I working with that client? From the moment I got the lead to the moment we left the closing table, how long was I working with that client? Some of you might say 30 days. Some of you might say 6 months. Some of you have no idea because you've been working with them for so long. The goal is to identify how long you were working with that client, with that lead. Okay. So from the moment they became a lead to the moment they signed their closing paperwork, how long were you working with them? How much time did we spend with that particular person? I'm working with a client right now. They close next week in 10 days. They close in 10 days. We've been working together since August of 2023. I have another one scheduled to close in the middle of May. We've been working together since February. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to be able to identify how long we've been working with said lead. Now, the next piece of this is probably going to be the most challenging for you. I want you to do this activity with every single closing you've had in 2024. So after our call today, I want you to take 30 minutes at some point today, tomorrow, whenever. I want you to take 30 minutes and do this activity with every single closing that you've had. Now, you might ask, Rich, why in the heck do I want to do this? Because this is stupid. I don't want to. The reason is quite simple. We need to know where we're spending our time. We need to know when I generate a buyer lead, on average, I'm spending this much time with that person. When I get a lead from my circle of influence, my sphere of influence, or a past client, I'm spending this much time. The reason for that is when we look at the lead gen matrix, I have no idea what I just did. I did something. When we look at the lead gen matrix, it's important for us to understand where these people are coming from and the reasons why. So in the chat, I'm going to put in the lead gen matrix for you, because what I want to show you is how much time we're spending. So so it's in the chat for you to have. I'm also going to share my screen so that you can see it. For those that are driving, I really want you to pay attention here. This is the lead gen matrix. If you, on average, if you started with an expired listing or for sale by owner, the time it takes on average is about 30 days. Somewhere between 0 and 30 days is the amount of time that we're going to spend with that client. Because, and say yes or yes to this, it's possible to call an expired listing today at 8:43 a.m. It's possible to call an expired listing, set an appointment for 1 o'clock this afternoon, and have listing paperwork signed by 2:30, and the listing can go live tomorrow. Yes or yes. But if you generated a buyer lead today, what are the odds that they're actually going to sign paperwork on something today? Do you see why that matrix, why we have to identify the time it takes? And so the next thing we're going to look at then in the lead gen matrix is how is the approach? We have to be proactive when we're looking to generate leads from expired listings and for sale by owners. We have to be proactive. We have to be proactive when we're looking at our past clients and our sphere of influence. That is a proactive activity. We have to reach out to them, call them, touch on them. We have to love on them. Open houses, I don't know how you could not have a proactive open house. You physically have to be there to generate that lead. But then when we start looking at referrals that are coming from our sphere of influence, when we look at paid internet leads or inbound sign calls, that is a passive approach, meaning it doesn't take any effort from us to generate that lead. Does that make sense? For us to get a referral from our past clients, we didn't have to, in theory, didn't have to actually do anything for them to say, hey, you need to call Rich. You need to call Dave. You need to call Tom. You need to call Curtis, Claire, whoever, right? Door knocking and database touching is a proactive approach. You can't generate a lead door knocking or touching your database if you're not the one actually doing it. Drip campaigns and mailers, I have as passive, and I have it as passive because this isn't something that you necessarily need to do, right? You can have somebody else mail these out. You can have somebody else assign the drip campaign. It's a set it and forget it kind of thing. So I have that as passive for you. I also have the time on the drip campaign is it's really hard to track how long, if it's a drip campaign or a mailer, it's really hard to track how long it took that lead in the matrix to convert into a sale. Most of us don't track that information in our database or in our farm to know the time. So I have that as just a question mark in terms of how long that timetable takes. So now we have the source, we have on average how long it takes and time wise, we have our passive or proactive approach, but now we need to talk about the skill level that it takes. We now need to talk about the skill level that it takes. Would you agree that if you were going to send a mailer or put somebody on a drip campaign, that it takes low to no skill at all to be able to execute on that? And yet, alternatively, if you were to prospect and you were to call expired listings and for sale by owners, that it would take a high level of skill because we have to have a high level of conversation. We have to be skilled in the scripts and the dialogues that we're going to have with those potential clients. We have to be highly skilled at open houses. We don't necessarily have to be highly skilled on internet leads and inbound sign calls or taking referrals from our past clients or our sphere of influence, right? That's a low to medium skill. We have to be able to communicate, but it doesn't take, you don't need to be highly scripted or highly leveraged to be able to do that. Past clients and circle of influence, that's a medium skill, right? That's a medium skill. So we have to be able to have conversations, but it takes more than just setting something, setting and forgetting, pressing send on the mailer, pressing send on the activate drip campaign. when we look at the lead gen matrix, if we needed to make money in the next 30 days, would there be a different way that you could do it? So my question to you as I come back off of screen share, my question to you would be, if you needed to make money in the next 30 days, backs against the wall, Rich, I have to get paid, I can't pay my bills, where would you start? Where would you look to go? Now, the next thing that I'm going to share with you in the chat is going to be the outline of the pathway to payday, and I'm going to share my screen again so you can see this. This is what we use when we're looking at how close we are to make money. This is the easiest way to show you predictably the pathway to your payday. Because we talked about this, you could call an expired listing today, right now, set an appointment for this afternoon, have paperwork signed, and have the property on the market today. In theory, you could do that. And in 30 days, you could get paid. I would also argue that if you were to hold an open house tomorrow, you're not going to convert that lead right away. It's going to take you some time. And in theory, you could potentially get paid in the next 30 to 60 days, in theory. We build our businesses in a multitude of ways. I know many agents that pride themselves that 80 or 90% of their business comes from their database. 80 or 90% of their business is 90 plus days out. 60 at most. If you needed to get paid, if you came to me and said, Rich, I need $5,000 by the end of May. What's the fastest way for me today on April 26th to get a listing? Or what's the fastest way for me to guarantee I get paid at the end of the month? I would tell you that you need to reach out to FSBOs and expireds, and you need to reach out to your past clients and sphere of influence. Because those are the two ways that you could get paid in the next 30 days. A lot of people spend money on buying internet leads. A lot of people spend money on buying these leads. And while I'm not telling you that it's bad to do, because I don't think it is, I think we need to be very realistic on where these leads are. These leads are at least 60 to 90 days out. So is the lead that you get trash because they didn't respond to you today when they came in? Or are they just not ready for you yet? I want to ask you where your business is coming from, and I want you to go internal. And that's why I want you to look at the closings you've had year to date. And I want you to be able to identify where in the lead gen matrix those leads fall. Because if we want to build a consistent real estate business, a predictable and consistent real estate business where you know that you're going to make this much money every single month to fund the life that you want to live, we need to be able to know how many leads we need to generate to be able to have that many closings in each month to be able to support that lifestyle. Agents that are prospecting based, have a much easier time predicting their income than agents that are passive in their lead generation. Because if I went on 10 listing appointments this week I know that on average, I'm going to convert anywhere between 3 to 5 of those appointments that week. Right? If you convert your listings between 30 and 50%, you know that if you went on 10 appointments, you're going to take 3 to 5 listings. You know that if I take 3 to 5 listings a week or 3 to 5 listings a month, let's say, you know that on average, you're going to sell 1 to 3 of those every single month that are going to go under contract. You're probably going to have some fallout because not every deal closes, right? We know statistically 60% of the deals that close with terms that are different than the original contract. We know there's going to be some fallout. So now we can say if I take 10 listings, if I go on 10 listing appointments, I'm going to take 5 listings. Of those 5 listings, I'm going to put 2 under contract, which means that next month in 30 days, on average in 30 days, I'm going to have X number of closings, which means I'm going to make X number amount of money. I can predict that. But if I generated 10 buyer leads, if I generated 10 buyer leads in the month of April, let's say, how many of those buyer leads are going to be ready to buy a house in the next 30 days? How many of those buyer leads are going to be ready to sign a purchase agreement in the next 30 days? Maybe one of those. So how many buyer leads do I need to generate to ensure my income is going to be there in the next 30 days? Probably 100. If it on average, right? We probably need to have 100 buyer leads, paid internet leads. Internet leads convert about 1 to 2%. So if I need to have 2 closings, I need to have at least 100 buyer leads generated each month to be able to predict that income. So let me ask you, go internal on it for a second. Is it easier for you to generate listing leads, or is it easier for you to generate buyer leads? I told you that I hail from the great city of Cleveland, Ohio. In the last 7 days, there have been 60 expired listings in my MLS. There have been 60 expired listings in my MLS. If I pulled up my Florida MLS, I bet you I'd have more expired listings than that. If you're located in Biloxi, Mississippi, I'm sure you're somewhere in there too. How many for sale by owners and expired listings are in your market? I share that with you because if we want to build a consistent, repeatable, proven real estate business where we don't ride that roller coaster in real estate, where we can say, I can make X number of dollars a month consistently. How is the easiest way for you to do that? Is it generating buyer leads? Is it listing leads? So your homework is to look at the deals that you've closed since January and identify in the lead gen matrix where they came from, what was the source, and then I want you to look at how long you worked with that client. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year and a half, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Now, what I want to share with you is the source is the source. Period. End of conversation. What I mean by that, if you buy Zillow leads, the lead and they bought a house with you 5 years ago, and then they bought a house with you again last month, it is still a Zillow lead. The source is the source. It no longer goes, it doesn't go from Zillow to past client sphere of influence. The lead is Zillow because that's where it originated. Does that make sense? Do you follow me there? You could put it in as a past client as well, but the original source of the lead. This is where I want you to make sure you're very specific as to the source of the lead. The source is the source 100% of the time. I don't want you to deviate from that, and I don't want you to tell yourself that the source is something other than what it actually is. Because if the originating source was Zillow and then you sold them a house, they did become a past client. But if we're going to track the ROI of our business, if we're going to look at the lead gen matrix, we need to know the exact source of business where that lead originated from, because without that origination, that lead doesn't exist. Does that make sense? If you run a team, this is incredibly important for you to understand. The source is the source 100% of the time. 100% of the time, the source is the source. I'm going to open it up for questions, comments, anything that you want to debrief on over the last 30 minutes. We went through a lot, but I want to make sure I take the time to answer any questions that you have about the pathway to payday and the lead gen matrix. We went fast, we covered a lot, and I'm sure you have questions. So go ahead and unmute yourself to make sure your camera's on. I'd love to see your face, and go ahead and ask any questions. George, we'll start with you. You have your hand raised.
Thanks, Rich. It's not so much a question as a validation of this, because I ran into that same problem when I first got into real estate. I didn't have an option. I needed to have income. And my mentor said exactly what you just said. So, George, if you want the assurance, it's a high skill process, but you're going to call for sale by owners. And I failed miserably the first week as my skills improved dramatically. But I ended up closing 26 properties that year, and it was 100% for sale by owners, nothing else. And that got my focus. So it got my level of professionalism, my skill set elevated. But this is not theory. This is practice. This is what gave me a real estate business, was that doing the hard work to start with. And I just had to validate everything you said because it changed my entire life.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir.
What questions do you have? So I'm sure you have some sort of questions. And again, guys, remember, this is a safe space. Anything you share in here, there's no judgment. There's zero judgment. If you remember last week, we had somebody that asked a question about how is what's going on a good thing for buyers. It was a very vulnerable question to ask. And they were brave enough to do that. So if you have questions or you want to challenge anything, please go ahead.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah. Good morning, Tom.
Like George, we went to the same brokerage, so it was horrible. It was uncomfortable. It was frustrating. But I'll tell you what drove me to do that was those successful people doing it, and they told me it would work, and I wanted to be out of the situation I was in so bad that I was willing to put myself through that kind of pain and misery to build my skill set and trust the process. And I think what happens is we as humans in our today's world, we take for granted what we can really do ourselves versus social media versus pay-per-click versus all these different things. And we overcomplicate the process. If we just simplify it and just stick to the 2-3 things that are highly productive in other realtors' world. And if you're not being productive in your world and you're not happy with your business, obviously it's not working. You got to move and pivot quickly. Find that 1, 2, 3 things that works for other agents and do that and for 3 to 6 months. You can, Rich, everything you said was breaking it down the pathway to success. And we always use the formula too, listings needed forms, how many listings do you need to actually provide the business that you need annually? But don't overcomplicate it. And matter of fact, if you look at the National Association of Realtors statistics, 92% of for sale by owners now are listing with agents. The other 8% are extremely unhappy with the process of doing it on their own and feel like they lost money. So use the National Association of Realtors statistics. It used to be that like a higher percentage of for sale by owners would sell on their own, but now they are in dire need of our support and our help. So anyways, I might have went long-winded on that. I think we overcomplicate it based on all these distractors we have. And if you're going to go with a distractor, make sure they have validity in everything they've done. There's too many phonies out there that say they're highly successful and skilled, and they have no validity in their success.
Well, I think that's powerful, right? Like if we were to look and we wanted to look at what was actually happening, we have to be able, to go internal on that. And one thing that you said was extremely powerful, and pick 1 or 2 or 3 things. I don't know what it is about our industry, but whenever something starts working, we stop doing it and we pivot and move into something else. Right? Because somebody has said, "Oh, go and do Reels, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels," and you're like, "Well, but I'm getting really good success over here. Okay, I'll stop doing this, and I'm going to go do Reels." And you get no business in it because you don't know what we're doing because we stopped doing what worked. April, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, and I'm talking on the flip side of this. So when I first got into real estate, I too was told do expires to FISBO, but I would freeze up, I'd hyperventilate, I'd get overwhelmed. And so I wasn't doing my best. I didn't get the training that I felt like I should have had. So I didn't know what I was doing and I would panic. So I stopped doing it. I appreciate this call though, because now I am inspired and encouraged, and I am committed to going back to doing expireds and FISBO. So thank you for the call.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And April, I thank you for sharing, that when you started doing it, the vulnerability of, the hyperventilating, the anxiety, right? Guys, anytime we do something new, anytime we start something that we've never done before, there is going to be that level of anxiety. There is going to be oh my God, what happens if they say no? What if they hang up on me, right? So if you could, April, I'll share with you the easiest way that I've learned in the last 14 years of how I prepare myself to make those calls. So when I want to role play my scripts, here's what I do. I first have the script in front of me. I write it out. I take 15, 20 minutes and I write the script. Hello, this is Rich with eXp Realty. I'm calling because your home is no longer listed for sale, and I have 2 questions for you. 1, what is your plans for the home? And 2, are you planning on reselling it? Right? That could be the introduction. And I would write that. And then I would chant it. And then I would literally stand in front of a mirror and I would smile and I would say the script. And then I would have an active role play with somebody. I would do that to build confidence, because if the author Phil Jones, he wrote the book Exactly What to Say. If you haven't read it, go get it. It's on Amazon, on Audible, go get it. One thing he said that is incredibly true. The worst time to think about the thing you need to say is in the moment in which you have to say it. That's where our stress comes from. That's where our level of anxiety comes from. Right? When they say, "Oh, I'm not interested in selling right now," do you say, "Okay, click"? Or do you ask another question to keep the conversation going? If we don't know what to say, then we're never going to be able to feel confident in that. Right? A lot of people say, I hate scripts. I'm not a scripted person. I don't use them. I hate them. I'm never doing it. If you might be sitting on that, sitting here right now going, yep, that's me. Yet I'm going to ask you, when your phone rings, what do you say? Do you say hello? Do you say hi? Do you say, good morning, this is Rich? That's a script.
Right.
That's a script. When somebody says, I love you, and you respond, I love you too, that's a script. When you go through the drive-through and they ask if you want to, do you want fries with that? That's a script. Do you think that person at the drive-through cares if you say no? They don't. They don't care. It's just part of the script. We, as real estate agents, we get very attached because of our ego. Our ego is our enemy. In this business, our ego is our enemy. What if they don't like me? That's your ego talking. What if they don't want to work with me? That's your ego talking. When we can take our ego off the table and we can look at this as business, as my job, right? We're all realtors. We all took an oath to uphold the realtor code of ethics. Our job is to represent buyers and sellers in the purchase of real estate. Let me ask you a question. Who's the best realtor you know? Karen, you raised your hand. Karen, when you raise your hand, are you saying that you're the best realtor you know? Claire, are you the best realtor you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So you took an oath with the Realtor Code of Ethics. Aren't you morally obligated based on the oath that you took, if you're the best realtor that you know, to make sure everybody works with you and that everybody has an opportunity to work with you because of the oath that you took?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Yep. Guys, I don't care if somebody doesn't want to work with me. I can't take it personally. The only thing I take personally is how much money comes into my bank account every month. I take that personally. The rest of it, I got to take it like it's water off a duck's back.
Rich, you just hit on a big, huge nugget, and you need to back up and go deeper on that.
On what?
You said that you are personally responsible for what?
I remember what I said.
The money in the account.
For your personal income.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you feel personally responsible for your income?
Because nobody's going to make it for me.
Why?
Because it's my job. My job
Why is it your job?
My job is to show up every single day.
Why?
Because you're self-employed.
I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're going with this.
I do. Keep going. Keep going. 'Cause this is important, because I see a lot of faces. This is important because this is getting to, as we are going through and understanding that we're personally responsible for our finances. Why are we personally responsible?
I'm gonna say that nobody's coming to save us, right? I'm gonna say that we are responsible for our success.
Yes. Why?
Because we chose to be self-employed business owners in this industry.
There you go. We chose to be personally responsible for our finances because of our why. Because we felt personally responsible. And I know in Rich's case, it has a lot to do with his family. It's his heart. It's his nucleus. You know, other people's big why may be an angry because they want to, make more money than their formers. I'm just saying. My first 5 years of real estate had everything to do with outdoing the real estate who took advantage of me and my former husband. I wanted to make sure that I contributed to this life better, stronger, and with more heart than my former. This is where I was going. When we take responsibility and feel personally responsible as a realtor, as it is our business, rather than being a quasi employee just waiting for low hanging fruit to appear, that is when you have taken your business to the next level. And everything that Rich has given us today will not just go through one ear and out the other or on a piece of paper. You will put it into action because it is as if you are eating the last piece of bread that you see on earth. And when you get your business to that level of responsibility and personal, that's when you see people get set on fire and nothing stops them. So thank you, Rich. I didn't mean to throw you a curveball. However, this allows us that breath because your Fridays are so impactful that I couldn't let that little nugget go.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
had
sharing that.
taken your business to the next level because of your personal responsibility to it. Instead of looking at it as a sales job, it's your business. It's your family, it's your life, it's your freedom. It has everything to do with that.
I'm going to share two more things with you. And one is going to piggyback off of Claire, and then I'm going to. There was a question that I got asked in the chat that I'm gonna re-ask it and give you the answer. So I want you to think about the most money you've ever made in a month selling real estate. I want you to think about the most money you've ever made in a month. And when you think about that most money you've ever made in a month, I want you to think about how you felt. How did you feel when you made that much money? Because I'll tell you, the first time I've been doing this 14 years, the first time I made $10,000 in a month, I was like, holy crap. Then I made $20,000 in a month. And I went, holy crap. And then I made $30,000 in a month. And I went, that's more money than I made my entire first year out of college. And I made it in 1 month. And then, guys, I made $50,000 1 month. And I went, oh my God, I make more than my mom makes in a year. I make more than my wife makes in a year. When we can look and go, holy crap, I can make that much money in 1 month. And then you look back and go, I didn't really work that hard. And you're like, wow, imagine if you made, I don't know, $20,000. If you've never made $20,000 in a month, I will tell you, here's what I will tell you. It's the coolest freaking feeling. It's the coolest freaking feeling. And then when you can make as much as you made in a year in 1 month, you're like, holy crap. That's when the game changes. That's when the game changes. That's when it gets fun. Because guys, we have the ability, if you want to make $100,000 in a month, we have the ability to do it. It's a math problem. Again, I cheated my entire way through school. It's a math problem. Least favorite subject, math. Guess what my favorite thing to do is right now? How much money do I need to make? What's that problem look like? And then I work backwards from there. I don't need to know the quadratic formula or the do, re, mi, fa, whatever that thing is, that thing, right? With the stuff. I don't need to know what it is. I need to know how much money do I need to make? How many homes do I have to sell? What does that look like for my family? When you can figure out and when you get to that point where you made more money in a month than you made the year before, or more money in a month than you've ever made in a month before, it's addicting. It's addicting.
Yes, and then Rich, that adds to it because once you've done it once, then it gives you the that you can do it again. And then your coaches come back and say, "That's great. You did it in a month. You did it 3 months straight. Now you got to do it in a week." And then
100%.
after you do that for 3 weeks, then they say, "Okay, now you got to do it in a day."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what's so cool is once you are able to get that financial thermostat to stop having a ceiling on it in your head, Rich, you just touched on nuggets, gold.
Last thing I'll share with you before we jump off this morning, I had a direct message asking me, Rich, if I wanted to start calling for sale by owners and expireds, where do you think I should start? There are a couple different programs that you can use that are cost effective. You can go and spend $400 a month, go get Red X or Vulcan 7, go and do that if that's where you want to go. I'm cheap. I started with Espresso Agent. I then went and I currently use My Plus Leads. I think I spend $60 a month on My Plus Leads. But you can go to Red X, you can go to Vulcan 7, you can use Espresso Agent, you can use My Plus Leads, you can use Land Voice. There are a number of different places that you can go to get the for sale by owner and expired data. If you want to start there, my recommendation, go as cheap as you can, commit to it for 90 days, do the stuff, do the things with the stuff, get the results, and then evaluate, do I want to continue doing this? And if I do, what do I need to add? What's the tech stack need to look like that I need to add to be able to do this at a higher level?
And Rich, if they're
67
just beginning in that process, the greatest way is look in your own MLS for your expireds and look on your local Zillow for sale by owners.
So I told you, I pulled up the Cleveland area MLS. In the last 7 days, there were 60 expired listings. I just pulled up Stellar MLS, which is, as I don't know where you guys are all located, but in Florida, there's a huge section that uses Stellar MLS. In the last 7 days, there have been 556 expired listings, 869 canceled listings, 567 withdrawn listings in the last 7 days in Stellar MLS. The opportunity is there.
Are you ready? In NEFAR, in the past 2 days,
MIFAR, where is that, Claire?
Northeast Florida Association of Realtors, we encompass 8 counties that touch each other, but then go broader from that. Are you ready? Here's a kicker. Expireds in 1 day. 1 day. Not a week, 1 day. 7,739. Hoo-yah.
Somebody is going to get those listings. Somebody is going to get those listings. Now, you can be one of those agents and go get 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 or 7,000, or you don't have to. Beautiful thing is
So
choice of yours.
Michelle just put something very important in the chat, and she asked a question. She goes, Claire, if MLS shows the owner's name, how do we get their numbers? Through all of our MLSs, we have been given a tool called Forewarn.
Forewarn.
Put their name in Forewarn. It will give you their number.
Yeah, that so
That's a great question, Michelle. Thank you.
take the long way to do it, right? The long way would be going into Forewarn and then going into the MLS and going, okay, this expired, type in their name into Forewarn, here's your phone number. That's the free way. The more if you want to save some time, you can go to My Plus Leads, Espresso Agent, Vulcan, Red X, any of those, and go that route. The easiest way, guys, is first and foremost, if you don't have your script book, I mean, literally, I have my script book out in front of me when I'm making my expired. Here's actually the expired script right here. When I make the call, the script book is in front of me and I go. Easiest way to do it is just to do it. Final thoughts, final questions. And then we're done. And then we're out of here. What do you got for me? Anything?
Where'd you get that script book?
If you go to gloveru.com,
Go to what?
gloveru.com, and I'm not promoting Jeff or any of that. These are the scripts that I use. I use his. gloveru.com. And then in the free resources, so when you go to, let me do it real fast with you. gloveru.com, go then to resources, click on the resources, and then click on Jeff's scripts. Put in your email address and you will get all of the scripts that I use. I use his, I go to his events, I go into his coaching programs, I follow everything he does. He's the #1 agent in Michigan. He sells about 1,000 homes a year. Really good dude. I follow him. Steve Pugh follows him, a bunch of other people as well. But those are the scripts that I use.
Thank you. Wow.
And I also, Rich, add to that, that no matter what MLS that you are associated with, set up your hot sheet to let you know what expireds have expired daily. Let it show up on your hot sheet, not just new listings, but set up your hot sheet so it works for you, not against you.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for taking about an hour to spend your Friday morning with me. I hope you have a great weekend. This is going to get posted in the Facebook group and online. I'm going to chunk it down. We'll reuse it for different things. If you have anything that we can ever help with, we are here to be a resource for you. George, is there anything you want to close us up with?
No, I've been scribbling notes while working on this monstrosity, my camera. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Rich. And of course, Miss Claire, thank you for all of your input too. It makes a big difference. Lots of great compliments. God bless y'all.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
George, before you click off.
Yep.
Mark put, what is the Facebook group? I guess so
Good
that he can
call.
go back
Mark,
and find the recording.
GPS Global Partners in Facebook, GPS Global Partners. Thanks, Claire.